My name is Paris Stabilski. I am in 11th grade this year. This is my presentation on the psychology behind anxiety. This is also a part of my junior capstone for this year. So far, I only have about 28 hours and 30 minutes in this project, but since this is my capstone, it will continue to grow over the rest of the year. My driving question is how is anxiety generated in the brain? In this project, I wanted to research how anxiety is able to exist and how in the brain this occurs. I wanted to look at anxiety at more of a scientific view, but also where it originates from. For the school year, instead of a sustainability focus or questions, we're to choose from a sustainable development goals list from the United Nations. My sustainable development goals are good health and well being and reduced inequalities. I chose these because mental health and anxiety is an element of well being for all humans and can affect their physical health. It is also more difficult for people living in poverty or low incomes who have access to proper mental health care. I chose this project because I have my own mental health and anxiety struggles for an extended period of time now. Since I began to take control over my anxiety, I wanted to take an opportunity to learn and educate myself about how anxiety is able to reside in the human brain. I also wanted others that have this wish to also better understand their anxiety. So, to start, what is anxiety? So, anxiety is the state of emotion caused by sensing a possible uncertain danger. There are both emotional symptoms like worrying or thinking something bad is inevitably going to happen, or there's also physical symptoms, jitteriness, sweating. Anxiety can be both unpleasant or productive in the sense that you can be more aware of surrounding dangers. There are also different types of anxiety disorders. A generalized anxiety disorder, which is like the constant feeling of severe worry. It's also the most common. A panic disorder, recurring and sudden panic attacks, OCD, compulsion act out in specific behaviors. People can experience one or even more than one. So I'm gonna share the topics that I've researched so far. These are only a few that I've researched, and since this is my capstone, I obviously plan to research many more topics. So, what parts of the brain are involved in feelings of anxiety and how do they contribute to its growth? For much of my research in this specific question, I used a Stanford School of Medicine study on patients with and without anxiety. Their goal was to find which parts of the brain were most active in each type of patient. The two parts of the brain involved in the production of anxiety are the amygdala and the hippocampus. The amygdala is involved in the processing of sensory signals and communication between all parts of the brain. The amygdala and the hippocampus also work together by the amygdala creating the fear and the hippocampus holding a memory associated with that fear. Um, Once our brain recognizes that we have encountered a specific fear, we go into survival mode and our body releases a bunch of chemicals at once, causing the feeling of anxiety. The diagram I have in the middle, that is showing the different connections between parts of the brain with patients with a generalized anxiety disorder. The red represents a strong connection with the amygdala, and the blue is representing brain regions with a weaker connection. How has COVID-19 affected the population's anxiety levels? Something I've been really interested in within my research is how COVID-19 has affected the population and their mental health or anxiety levels. Some ways to care for your mental health can be know what to do if you think you are sick, knowing who to contact, knowing what to do if you do have to self treat, knowing where and how to receive treatment, taking care of your personal emotional health, taking breaks from any news sources or social media outlets. Again, these are just a few things that I've felt work for me and I know work for others. This infographic on the right is showing the difference in symptoms of anxiety and COVID-19. Personally, this has been something I've experienced a lot of anxiety about with confusing the two because some of the symptoms, as you can see in the middle, are very similar. All right. So switching gears, I know this doesn't have the first part of the presentation was more of my capstone before the switch, but very recently I've been able to make a switch in my research. Due to more personal interest, I've decided to rework my project into becoming childhood mental illnesses. My driving question for this project is, how do mental illnesses affect children? In this project, I plan to research about mental illnesses that affect children and how this is different from that of mental illness in adults. The topics I previously talked about in this presentation are those that are still relevant in my research, like COVID 19's effect on children, different other different topics that I've researched in this project are still very relevant to that of childhood mental illness. Other topics I plan to research are the diagnosis of mental illness in children, what illnesses affect children. This is also something that my mental illness has started when I was pretty young, so it's still very, very relevant and very interesting to me. These are my sources. Again, most of these are from the start of my presentation where I talked about more of the psychology of anxiety. That was more of kind of a closing out of that part of the project. Thank you for watching. Any questions?